Starting today, new rules are coming to bars just across the bridge in Gatineau and right across that province. Bars will not be allowed to serve alcohol after midnight. They will also have to close by 1 a.m. and operate at half capacity. Plus, sorry folks, no dancing is allowed. Now, this all comes after a flare-up of COVID-19 cases linked to a bar on Montreal's South Shore. 60 people now suffering from COVID-19. So, big question, is this a lesson for us here in Ontario? I think I know the answer to that. We're joined now by epidemiologist from the U of O, Dr. Raywat Deonandan. Good morning, Dr. Ray. Always good to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Big lesson for us, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway message is always this disease loves mass, intimate indoor gatherings, and drunk people crowded together dancing with strangers is pretty much a mass indoor gathering.
Which begs the question, what were they thinking? Shouldn't they have known better?
They probably should have known better, yes. Even in Sweden, that had a more lackadaisical approach to this disease, they had one of a handful of rules, and that was no standing around at bars. If you're in this public eating establishment, you have to sit down. So even they understood, and Sweden is famously more lax about their control over their people and this disease. So it is astounding that this was not an earlier adopted strategy.
Yeah, I know a lot of bar owners are frustrated because they're saying, you know, this one bar in the South Shore of Montreal ruined it for everybody. But we got to take a look at the bigger picture here, and we don't want them to fail as businesses, of course. So as we move towards stage 3, which we're told is imminent, really, in the next couple of weeks if the numbers continue, should bars be part of that stage 3?
I think so. I think all businesses have a role to play, and they can be open strategically and safely, limiting the number of people, allowing for more spacing. So I don't know what the magic number is for capacity, but it isn't based so much on the number of people. It's the ability of people to maintain their distancing and also not encouraging clustering of individuals. So taking away the dancing option is probably a good idea.
What about closing earlier? I mean, the less time to drink, the less chance of drinking too much.
Well, that's more of a sociological question than an epidemiological one. So the question is, how much are you incentivizing and disincentivizing clustering of people? If it seems that your community, your culture tends to want to cluster once you drink more and later into the night, then we should disincentivize that behavior.
A lot of frustration for a lot of people saying, we watch what happened big picture in Quebec, and they're a couple steps ahead of us, including reopening schools while our schools are still closed. Let's pivot to that story. Dr. Vera Etches, of course, Ottawa Chief Medical Officer of Health, saying to the school board yesterday, hey, we're up for a 5-day return to school come the fall. What do you think, Dr. Ray?
Yeah, I think that's the way it has to go. So the alternative is having a staggered a couple of days per week, 2 days this week, 3 days next week. And in my opinion, it has to match what happens in the work world because people use schools as childcare. If you don't have a couple of days per week to send your kid to school, you're going to have to find a daycare or other opportunities. And so what you're doing is exposing your children to a different cohort of exposures. It makes more sense to have a consistent, sustained group of people that your children are exposed to that you can actually monitor. So epidemiologically, it makes a lot more sense to have the 5-day school week open. Also, in terms of long-term child development, I don't think children can tolerate another season of homeschooling en masse, not with the amount of stress currently available. And I worry about the long-term impacts of isolation on this cohort. So yeah, I think that should be our priority, trying to get schools open safely and quickly.
What are the effects on kids when they're sitting at home instead of being in the classroom?
It's hard to say. I'm not an expert in this field, but I'm told that it can lead to long-term depression, some slowness in development, depending upon the children's age. We know that schools are more than just a place of learning. It's a place where a lot of young people go to encounter the world, where actualization takes place, where learning about yourself takes place. It's a lot more of a socialization experience than it is a book learning experience. So if all you're learning is through a computer screen with your family, you're missing out on a whole lot of important experiences that define youth.
It's about weighing the risks, right? And you say 5 days, whether instead of 2, it's worth sending them back as long as the measures are in place.
As long as the measures are in place. And I think the best way to keep people safe in schools or in workplaces is to keep the caseload low in the community. So, I mean, I sound like a broken clock on this, but the message has not changed. If we do our part in the community, distance, hand wash, wear masks, and keep the caseload low, then everyone is safe. And we can keep the economy open longer and keep schools open more safely.
Always a pleasure to get your insight, Dr. Raywat Deonandan, the epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa. Thanks for getting up early for us.
Thank you.